Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you for coming back, Elise.
Of course, it's my pleasure to be here.
If you haven't remember, they were on the last video, went on philosophy, and now they're back here to talk to us again. Something that's not truly a philosophy topic, but something I feel like it's coming around the corner. What sparked me was when I went to go to like the supermarket, like Walmart. I saw the aisles for the holiday Valentines already is coming up. So what more interesting topics to talk about than relationships? What have you been up to?
Oh man, I just still doing grad school. I just finished a semester. I'm gearing up for the next semester. Got the spring semester coming up. I'll be TAing for business ethics, so I'm really excited about that. I'm excited and I'm nervous. I hear business students are incredibly bright and incredibly just motivated and ready to be in class. So I am ready to meet them where they are with that motivation and that zeal to learn, and I'm ready to do some ethics with them. But yeah, thanks so much for having me again, CK. I'm so excited to talk about relationships. I am personally not an expert on these. I have not been in many. Romantic ones, that is. I've had lots of friendships. Of course, it's important, I think, to what's the word I'm looking for? It's important to lay out the sort of relationships we're going to be talking about. And like you said, Valentine's Day is coming up. So I think the goal here today is to focus on this more romantic relationships, if that's, I'm understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's all kinds of relationships.
Hello, motherfucker.
Hi, Zia.
Zia. It's my cute little dog here. And so relationships do come in different styles. So you do have friendships, you have companionships, you do have obviously relationship with your work, with the people you work with, and also people that you are inclining towards in a romantic sense. Obviously, starting with you, Elise, what would you say currently in your experience with relationships, what was like your way into basically getting into a romantic in your experience?
I am currently in a really healthy relationship. We've been together a little over 3 years now. But relationships have always been sort of a weird thing for me, especially growing up and going through like adolescence and such. I personally was raised in a very religious home, and so I was expected that I would be heterosexual, and there were a lot of just heteronormative expectations placed on me. And so growing up, I would be asked, like, what kind of guys do you want to date when you get old? Because I was assigned female at birth, and I would just be like, I don't know, I guess as long as he's nice or, whatever. So romantic relationships for me were really weird growing up for a long time. I did date one guy in high school for quite a while. Didn't work out, and then turns out I'm gay. So yeah, now for me, I'm just enjoying the healthy relationship that I have and the way I got into that relationship. I was telling you about this earlier, CK. I think it's kind of unique the way my relationship started, because when I started dating this person, I was not looking for a relationship. I wasn't interested in any sort of long-term, short-term. I didn't want commitment. I just wanted to kind of be a fuckboy and, just get some experience, and meet some people, have a good time, that sort of thing. But then this person came along, and I was like, I like them. And at first I figured it was just that sort of attraction you have to a person that you find physically attractive. And that was a huge part of it, of course. I think she's wonderful and beautiful and kind and all of those great things. But I wasn't really looking for a relationship. And so the degree of attraction I felt at that time was almost off-putting, and I didn't really like it at first. I was very drawn to her, but I was like, this isn't what I want at this point in time. But then as I got to know her better, we talked. Became really good friends over about the course of a year, and then I decided, I was like, I really like this person, and she's still hanging out and talking to me, so I guess she doesn't hate me too much. Yeah, and it seems like pure chance and happenstance that I just stumbled upon this really healthy and satisfying and fulfilling relationship. But I'm highly aware that that is not the experience for so many people. I know that a lot of people really want a relationship, and they actively look for that. And I think that's okay. I think it's perfectly fine to pursue your wants and your needs and your desires and that sort of thing. I don't know what sort of advice to give that kind of person, if that makes sense, because I haven't ever really actively, like, sought it out. Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I was just living my life and trying to be the best person I could be and just studying philosophy and working out and whatever, you know, I was doing at the time, and it just sort of happened. Yeah, I'm not sure. Is that sort of similar for you, or what sort of relationships experience do you have in that way?
So, yeah, for one of the relationships I experienced, definitely, like, it's nice to build friendships with people and get to know people before going through, I guess, the commitment phase, or definitely being more exclusive. It is definitely important to communicate with people. I think that's the one thing I've noticed, the patterns of a lot of these good relationships. I would say the big advice is just to communicate early and be really open to them. Take the risk. It's definitely, obviously, an investment. You do have to spend time with this person that you're wanting to be romantically involved. And I think it's important to just, you know, listen to who they are, get to know them, be genuinely intrigued. And obviously, using the psychological term active listening is really key, because I feel like when you find somebody who's really, you know, cares about you, they definitely will be willing to listen and care, and they would take into consideration what you say. A lot of people find it attractive because it shows, like, you know, that one step that's not just all looks. In my experience, I had relationships where it took a long time for it to become a romantic relationship, or in some of them it starts really quick. It kind of just, it just all depends on like how comfortable they are with you, with themselves as well. Depends on where they are. If somebody is obviously a little bit too shy, and I think I've met some people who are shy, it takes them longer. You know, they definitely want to build enough, I guess they want to build that level of comfort in order to basically put more of themselves to someone. And every person's situation, I think, is different, because some people go through traumatic experiences with other people, and for them, like, it's hard to build trust. And trust is, like, also something that comes with the relationship. You
talk about active listening and like how that's an important component in a relationship, and whether that's friends or more romantic, like what does active listening look like for you in this?
Yeah, so active listening is basically, you do have to take away, I guess, any biases you have towards the person. Like, if the problem with communication these days is that people kind of try to figure someone out within a few moments of meeting them. You know, just by appearance, how they look. As a person, you know, when you're communicating, you're also communicating with bias, because you basically, you know, trying to figure them out. But the best thing is the best part of active listening is to definitely ask them really good questions, genuine questions that are not ending in yes or no, questions very like, why is that, or explain more about that. So something that's not, like, more open-ended questions. And then with active listening, you do have to show that you're actively engaging by affirming what they're saying. So sometimes you could say, I see, or like, I nod. Of course, like verbal or physical affirmation of the conversation, or also just repeating back what they're saying. Like, oh, so you're saying, like, what you were saying about this, like, tell me more. So active listening is also, like, you kind of have to participate in a way where you do have to find moments where, you know, you want to go further into a certain topic, or basically just find out how they are. If they are a person who don't really open up easily, maybe change it up and let them become the active listener. It's kind of, you kind of have to figure out through the conversation. And I think active listening is something that's hard to practice at first, but, you know, with friends and stuff like that, you can meet new people and then practice with them by just, like, new people at work or in school. And I think it's easy to basically do it once you get a few times of meeting new people.
Yeah, so what I hear you saying is that active listening and getting to know someone requires a lot of, not only listening, but also asking follow-up questions
Mm-hmm.
and rewording what they've said back to them in some way. And in that way, you show that you're really not only listening, but you're understanding
Right.
in a deeper way than just nodding and saying, oh, yeah, like,
Yeah.
I like that too. It's less passive, it
Right.
seems. Yeah, good. I like that.
That's interesting because there's always people who say like, I hear what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
or they're hearing what you're saying, but they're not truly understanding, or they're just
Yeah.
not truly taking it and thinking of what you're saying. Obviously, you'll see comedy stand-ups about relationships where the guy basically give advice to other guys about, there's cue words to say to show that to sound like you're listening, but you're just trying to basically continue on, let them ramble on by just saying like, yep, sure, yeah, or something like that.
Yeah.
I know it's very easy to just say that, but the problem is down the line, they're going to ask you if you remember, certain things.
Right.
You had to recall, the times you were together, what they'd say, because obviously, if you really like the person, you definitely want to know about them.
Yeah.
So, you'd better have a closer connection or a bond. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the top advice I would say is active listening when it comes to like meeting someone new, and if you really like them,
Mm-hmm.
I think that goes a long way. And usually I think it shows their maturity.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
It shows like maybe they're the right or wrong, or maybe they're not the right person. I think it's just based down to conversation.
Yeah, so I guess maybe looking at it from the opposite way now, even like, let's say you do want to pursue someone, and so you initiate that sort of active listening. But another thing it sounds like, CK, that you're recommending we look out for is like, are they being active listeners to you as well? Like, how much are they listening? How much do they care about what you have to say? Are they open to your experiences and your hobbies and your what you love to do, or are they just like a reciprocal? Are they giving back too? It's so active listening, it sounds like, is important no matter, like, regardless of the position you're in, whether you're pursuing or being the pursued or whatever it might be.
Yeah, so when you do a conversation, obviously you don't want a monologue, or you don't want them to monologue. You definitely want them to, you have to see if they're actually asking you questions. Usually a one-way conversation gets kind of, can get kind of, I would say awkward.
Awkward, boring.
Yeah, it can get quite boring sometimes, but it's hard.
Yeah, maybe, I'm curious what your thoughts are on, like, pursuing, like, say that you meet someone and you really like them and you kind of get the vibes that maybe it's mutual or something, and like say you have a conversation and they're like, yeah, I like you too, but then down the line it seems like maybe they're not as serious as you are. Like, how do you, CK, feel about pursuing a relationship where they like you but you don't know if they're as invested as you are? Do you think it's a good idea to continue pursuing that relationship as the one who feels more invested than the other party? Or do you think at that point in time, maybe you should just like step back and let them, go on with their lives? I'm curious what you think about that sort of scenario. Yeah.
That's a good question. I think a lot of people are definitely stuck in that part of the relationship where they get the person, they have the person, they basically agree that they like each other. But then the question is, like, how committed are they, or how serious the relationship goes? Based on my experience, especially in college, a lot of times young people who are very ambitious and definitely have their own desires, I feel like are more goal-driven to other things that are priorities to their life. And basically, I guess for some of them, they at least will communicate to you. I think that's important to let you know that they're not looking for something serious, which is definitely something important to let them know. I would rather have them tell, straight up than to just ghost the person, because I think that's just a sign of disrespect, and also it's kind of like shows that you're not mature enough to, tell people how you truly feel.
Yeah.
I think that if you have to let someone down, it's just because, like, they will understand. I feel like they have to be mature enough to say, okay, maybe it's not the right time for us, or maybe we're just not compatible in the end.
Yeah.
But you do have to, at that point, tell them, like, look, I kind of like you. I want to see how far this goes. When you're looking to finally find someone, in your life that you want to have a serious relationship with, you do have to take that risk. And obviously, it's another level of risk to put yourself with someone that you're going to spend time with. You're going to have to put a lot of effort in the relationship, because it's not like a one person carries the whole thing.
Right.
Just because, like, it can also build, like, insecurities, like, for the person. For me, like, if somebody, like, wants me to carry the conversation all the time, expects me to text first, or to always be the one to plan everything, or basically be the one to initiate any type of intimacy, I think it creates this insecurity to me, where I'm feeling like, well, maybe there's something about me that they are really trying to hide from, and they probably just don't really am that motivated or enthusiastic about me to want to be in a romantic relationship. They're probably just wanting some companionship or somebody to just keep them company, which is fine. Yeah, you definitely want to see where they are and what type of relationship they're seeking. And it's not bad. There just shouldn't be any hatred or any hard feelings for people who definitely are going to have some sort of rejection. I think that's normal every day, because you really have nothing to lose, because if they want to be friends, that's fine. If you can't handle it, then
that's okay too.
Obviously, you'll find other friends as well.
Yeah. So it sounds like maybe what you're saying is that if you're in this sort of like undefined sort of territory of relationship, maybe not on the same page, like maybe that's a sign that your communication with one another in that relationship isn't where it should be, and that maybe you should like take a step back and initiate that communication with them in some way. So here we are again, communication. It seems like it's everything.
I think it's over 50% of the relationship. Obviously, another thing is the intimacy level. There has to be some form of intimacy or physical attraction. It separates that from friendship. It is something where the bond is another level. You're becoming another vulnerable state in your life, where you basically share each other in a physical sense. And I think it does take a lot for some people who are not ready for that level to be that close to someone, to be intimately involved. But I think eventually, if over time, if it doesn't go to that level, it's going to just remain as friendships for some people.
I don't know about you, CK, but I find being vulnerable, like even with someone that I trust, like a close friend or my partner, can be really challenging. And I think that for me personally, I had to do a lot of like internal work and get like my self-esteem in a better place before I found that I could even be vulnerable like with someone else. So I think a lot of it's not only communication, but like self-care too. Taking care of yourself is a wonderful way to also take care of your partner. Because if you are in a shitty headspace, or you're not doing well, or you're just unfortunately depressed or whatever, like if you're not taking care of yourself throughout that process, the people you're going to hurt are likely the ones that are closest to you, because when you're not in a good state, you're more likely to lash out or get frustrated or whatever it may be. And so I think maybe this is a good spot to just mention another important thing with relationships, especially intimate romantic ones, is self-care, And I think that's something that we don't talk about a lot in the like space of romantic relationships. It's usually about, like what are you doing for them? But at the same time, what are you doing for yourself? And what is this relationship doing for yourself too? Is it really enriching your life? Is it really enriching who you are and making you better?
That is a good point. In psychology, you'll hear a lot, especially today, where mental health, a lot of people are trying to do self-care. And that's important. There's probably somewhere, I forgot where I heard it, where honestly, in order to love others, you have to first love yourself and basically take care of yourself. Because if you do have some type of, issues with your life, if you go on to be with someone, you probably, some people will project their anger or frustration or emotional imbalance to their partner and basically indirectly hurting them in the process. You don't really purposely try to, but it is hard for some people. Like, the relationship's not very constructive. And there are levels of relationship where it becomes destructive. So when you start to evaluate, you want to look through the relationship and see how does that person affect you in a way where do they critique you or push you down all the time, or do they try so hard to help you build yourself up as a person? where they motivate you, or they basically give you good advice, or they help you. They show like, so that type of relationship are the ones that I feel like are worth fighting for. Yeah. And then the ones that are red flags are the ones where they try to make you insecure, where they're trying to make you feel bad for just being yourself. I think that's it's very hard for some people because they get so dependent to that level where they get too dependent on somebody that could potentially just be toxic to them.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess just to kind of sum up where we're at so far, we've talked a lot about communication, maybe a little bit we touched on like possible red flags and what to keep an eye out for. What are some like positive traits in a partner that, I think this will vary from person to person, but for you, CK, like what are some things you look for in a person?
Yeah, for me, I find people who are very attractive, or it basically works really well when the person who are very easygoing, better at listening. I think that some people, like, you start noticing how they are towards you, if they're very free going, or they share themselves pretty easy to you, so it's like that level of trust. I think if somebody's a little bit too, paranoid, or they show signs of, they start assuming the things that they think they figured you out, I think that's a red flag for me, just because, like, now they're trying to basically find ways to fill this negative, like, idea of you, or they're trying to judge you. I think when someone starts judging you for, like, your own desires, or your habits, or I guess when they start nitpicking you all the time, I think that's a sign of, like, they're trying to change you to a person that they want you to be.
Yeah.
But it's not they don't really truly respect who you are. With relationships, like, I don't want somebody to be too highly independent. And by that, I mean somebody who is at a level where they know they're worth so much, and they think they're worth more than other people, to the point where they don't rely for help for anything. They kind of just, do things on their own. They're not really trying to let you know about things. They're not very active with you, like, in a way where they're not trying to ask you, what do you think, or stuff like that, where they're not depending on you at all. I think that's something that's surprising for some people, I guess, because, like, in media today, you see a lot of people saying, like, yeah, you want to be that strong, independent person. Basically, do not need these people. You do not need this person, this person in your life. You just, it's just a privilege to have them. But I feel like that's kind of a wrong way to look at relationships, because my professor back then in college, she explained, like, relationships are not, like, you're not depending on somebody, but you're also not truly independent from them. You want to be interdependent. Interdependent means, like, you depend on some things from that person, and they also depend on some things from you. And I think that's a really nice thing, because for some people, I know, like, they definitely want and desire this sense of, like, that they're needed in the relationship, like, they're wanted. And obviously, for some people, they don't need you to do anything for them, or, in any capacity. I feel like it starts to become to the point where, you guys are just kind of, like, just friends at that point, for some people, just friends with benefits, because they just want that physical aspect, and then they kind of just want to do their own thing after the interaction. Yeah, for me, like, I don't have too much of a crazy, like, specific, they have to like this, they have to like that, because not everyone's exactly the same. So I am going to expect them to like different things, or be into different type of hobbies. I think the most important thing is, like, the sense of openness, being willing to be forward and very responsive, especially with feelings or thoughts, and basically show, like, they care by, like, letting you be part of their lives by helping them out or doing something for them. It just shows, like, that they know that you're there. Them being too highly independent, that's just me. I think that definitely is something I've noticed in a lot of these people who are very highly attractive, and they are very successful in their own way. They basically do everything themselves, which is great. But at the same time, it's like they get to the point where they don't have enough suitors or they don't find any partners that want to stay for the long term, because I feel like the way they see other people is like just a privilege to be with them, or they think too highly of themselves. And I feel like that creates a wall between them, and you just don't want to, you're not empathizing at that level.
So it seems like it's like, obviously it's good to be independent, it's good to be self-sufficient, it's good to be confident in all of these things, but it sounds like what you're saying, and I think I agree with you, like there's this point at which you go so far into the like independent badass sort of like person that you almost aren't able to engage in deep and rewarding relationships anymore, because you've convinced yourself that you don't actually need these people.
Right.
But that's the thing is, like, people, I believe this strongly, like, people will always need people, you know? Like, we live in societies for a reason.
You're right.
You know? Like, you're raised by your parents because humans are completely incapable of taking care of themselves until the age of, like, 6 or something. You are going to need people, and I think once someone gets into the mindset that they don't need people, that's when it becomes dangerous, and that's when it becomes a hindrance to this like vital human connection that even if we crave it to different degrees, or some people crave it in different ways, like, some people aren't into romantic relationships, that's fine, but it seems you're still going to need someone. Like, you can't do it alone. And it's very dangerous, I think, to get in that headspace of thinking you can do it alone. Because, I mean, I've been through that personally. Like, I thought I could do it alone for a long time. And it can get really scary. And one day you wake up and you realize, shit, fuck, I need serious help.
That's true. Like, it sucks to say. Like, obviously, we all want to be that person who basically, don't rely on anyone. But we do have friends for a reason. And the thing with society, like, human are social beings. If we don't interact with people over time, your mental health will deteriorate. You'll start to basically talk to yourself. I mean, we hopefully don't resort to that. But basically, like, having friends, it's great. And obviously relationship is something like that as well. It's just a deeper connection. And it's not shameful to want to be with someone. It's just nice because, like, in the end of the day, you have your family, you do have your friends, but also you have somebody who knows you more than anyone else in all levels, and they care about you. It's interesting because, like, I remember this whole, like, the balance. I remember reading the book. Some of you might have read this book, but the book of Jane Eyre. And Jane Eyre, like, if some of you remember, like, she obviously served as, like, a maid, I think, or, like, a servant to this guy named Mr. Rochester. I think. And he is obviously the wealthiest, the best looking guy. And the relationship, like, it is controversial, I guess you could say, for some people who don't like the ending where Mr. Rochester gets burnt a little bit and he basically goes blind. And, he's in love with the main, like, with Jane Eyre, but Jane Eyre basically becomes his caretaker and looks after him, even though he can't no longer see or help himself. So
didn't he already have a wife too?
He had a wife that he locked up on the tower. Basically, she went
so complicated. Yeah.
So he accidentally got himself stuck with this woman that basically went crazy up in the tower. But it's really interesting because, like, in order for the relationship to work, he had to become dependent on her at a sense. So it's interesting at the same time, like, for some people, their point of view of this book is stories like, obviously he has to basically lower himself to a point where he needs to depend on Jane, which I don't think that's, like, truly the case. I think for this, they're trying to show, like, this relationship balance is, like, he can't be truly independent, if he wants to be with someone. And I think with Jane, obviously she's a very strong, capable woman who's very smart. But she obviously cares for him, and she's allowing him to basically be dependable on her. But at the same time, it's an interdependence, of course, because I think that's the main key, is to keep that balance of needing things from someone. And obviously it's not bad, because in the end, once you become together for a long time, you basically will notice that you pick up the same habits, or you start to pick up their interests and mannerisms, and you started, you do change a bit of yourself, but you don't change completely who you are.
Absolutely.
Which I think some people are afraid to go in and pick up, or, join another group of family that you might not see eye to eye, which is hard. Like, with my side of the family, my mom is from Mexico, and my dad's from Vietnam. And I think it was really, daunting for my mom to accept my dad, who is from a different country, culture, to marry somebody who different language barrier. But they made it work, and obviously, like, she depends on him, but in a way where she needs him and he needs her, basically, because my dad couldn't live in the United States completely alone, which he did, which can be quite a struggle, especially being an immigrant.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
yeah, and for her to come to America, she really needs my dad in order to figure out how to go through, living in America. So there's obviously some deal breakers for certain people based on religion or culture or lifestyle. But I think, honestly, the interdependence, I think, is the key thing some people overlook, or the media doesn't show. Like, good relationships are interdependent, not both of them are highly independent. That can be a flaw in itself.
Yeah. Maybe, so I have a minor in psychology. I know that's what your degree is in. Nice. And when I was an undergrad, I took a psychology of relationships course. And one thing we discussed in that course is, so in psychology, there are like 5 big personality traits or whatever. I'm sure you're familiar with that. The CANOE is the acronym, I think, for that. But the 2 most important ones were conscientiousness and, I think, openness, as far as, like, relationships that are healthy and have good communication and tend to last a long time. Those were the 2, like, key personality traits that are found in those types of relationships. And I'm listening to you talk, and I hear a lot of openness in what you're saying, and, like, just being open to your partner, being open to not just their hobbies and their loves and their joys, but being open to their flaws as well. Like, we're all human, we're all gonna have shit, and it's just important to know going into things, like, okay, there's gonna be things, I'm open to that, and I'm happy to walk through that with you and talk it out and work through it. So it sounds like what you're saying with your parents as a good example is that they came from very different cultures and very different backgrounds and languages and countries, and they were able to come together and be open with one another and just, okay, like, let's just, wherever this goes, we're along for the ride. And it sounds like that worked out great for them. So I'm really glad to hear that.
Openness, like what you said, like the personality, obviously the big 5 are the ones that I feel like are more accurate. When you look at the CANOE, obviously conscientiousness.
Virgo? I'm a Virgo. Are you saying that's not valid? What?
I don't know. The stars might not say.
They're not aligned.
Not aligned. But yeah, like conscientiousness and openness, I think that's super important, because like when you're open, you are accepting their whole self. They might not be perfect. They don't have like the best things in life, or they don't, they might struggle in certain things, especially like if they're not like physically active, or they might not, be super into things that you like. But it is hard. But the thing is, the great thing about in a relationship is like learning about and having fun, and also being adventurous, because when you're sharing your what you like and what you do, you basically can allow people to be more well-rounded as a person. For example, like my girlfriend, currently she is learning Spanish, basically. She is really determined, with the Duolingo, of course, but at the same time, I'm also trying to teach her how to speak some words in Spanish. Some phrases that you don't really learn through apps. She's very inclined to learn that part of my life. For me, like, the first thing she showed me was Star Trek. Like, Star Trek is something that I know because of the original series, but I didn't know all of the Star Trek. I only know the originals. And once I started watching, like, the Next Generation, DS9, I just got into Voyager, and then I'm like, I'm basically a Trekkie now. So surprising, because I was like, well, now I like Star Trek. So, And, stuff like that I never thought I would like. I used to be that guy who only watches anime, of course, Yu-Gi-Oh, Naruto. Gosh, I only watch, like, the main anime, even some obscure ones, but basically I'm into, like, that type of stuff, Final Fantasy and whatnot.
Yeah.
Getting to know somebody, their interests and hobbies and likes, something, like, really kind of changed the way I think about things, especially being more outdoors. My girlfriend's very outdoors type, so now I'm going outside more often than I'm always staying indoors, but
I hope you don't melt.
yeah, I don't want to get too tan, but yeah, it's the more you know somebody, the more you're willing to try new things with them. Like, you just have to have that open mindset. You don't want to be too biased or just be too, like, stubborn, because the problem is, you're spending time with them. How are you going to do things together if you're so opposite?
Yeah.
It's like, try things. That's I think another big tip for some people. I think when you go out there, you're searching through Tinder or you're going through your online dating apps, you're just trying to find somebody who has the most amount of things that you have, that you like. But at the same time, like, you're not giving the people the chance who are the ones that are different to get to know them. And especially in this climate right now, I think people are more divided than ever because of very specific ideologies or how their worldview.
Right. Well, we all, like, craft echo chambers, like, and social media and stuff. And so it's like, it's very, I think it can be, it's easy to slip into that and to just, like, surround yourself with people who have the exact same ideas, the exact same beliefs. It's easy, it's comfortable, and I think it's a problem. And it's something that we should probably be working to be aware of, like, constantly. Like, are you challenging yourself? Are you challenging your beliefs, your ideas? Here I go, philosophy.
But hey, that definitely is a good thing why you're here, because from your different background, you're starting to notice the philosophical, like, meaning behind people interaction and what makes us unique as a person. People are created based on where they're born, and, like, they're impacted by their society, and obviously many factors, like, make a culture what it is. And I think I've seen a lot of people where they're too stuck in their ways, or they're too traditionalist. They're not willing to open up to new possibilities or new cultures to enrich their lives. And for me, like, I'm always that type who's always interested in learning new things from new groups of people, because
totally,
being biracial in the United States, like, I have so many different things, like, I learned through, like, my mom's side, my dad's side. Even though my dad didn't share too much of his Vietnamese culture, I still know some of it. And then, like, with living in America, you obviously have the American culture, which is very different than being in the Mexican culture. You'll find people that you wouldn't usually date, and you'll be surprised that you'll like them, and you'll find them very attractive in different ways. Like, because I feel like obviously nowadays there's so many options to find new people in your lives. And I know some people have stigma with dating online, but I would say dating online has made it a little bit easier to get the chance to actually talk to someone, even if it's indirect, but it allows you to practice and to, like, communicate and form, like, conversations. And for me, like, I tried out both ways. I met people in person. I've asked out people even at work, which I don't know if that's even, like, good or advice or not. But it just depends if how close you are as coworkers. But there's risk to that. So you can meet people at work. You can try to, it's all about proximity, as I said in the past video on theory of attraction.
I think just two things to follow up on all these really great things you've been saying is, first, like, definitely don't be open to new experiences. Talking about all this openness, like, I like what you said about the traits you find you will like in your partner might surprise you. So, for example, like, I grew up in a very clean, like, organized museum of a house, and so that's just kind of like what my habits were. I was very clean. I still am pretty clean, like, and organized. But had I known how just messy my partner is before we moved, like, I knew before we moved in together, but before we started dating, I probably would have just said, no, she's not even an option. Like, if I would have said, no, she's not an option. But now it's like, I have actually come to love her messiness, and like it has allowed me to step back and relax too. Like I don't have to scrub the sink with a toothbrush every 3 days. I don't have to do that. Like it's not going to be the end of the world. And that's something that I didn't know I needed to learn until I started dating this person and living with this person. And so yeah, maybe there's even some little kinks that you'll learn about yourself that you'd be better off without, through getting to know these people and just how they live and all that sort of thing. There was one other thing I was going to follow up.
It has to do...
Oh, yeah, workplace. Workplace dating. That's... So, as CK said, be careful with that because you never know. But I also want to say it's not impossible because my partner and I did work together. And technically, I was her supervisor. But I waited until she quit till I asked her out. We weren't dating when we were like at the same workplace. But that is how we met. So, if you meet someone that you work with, you know, it's not like... it's not impossible. And it could turn out to be a really great thing.
Yeah, honestly, when you're getting older, when you're in the workforce, no longer in school, you start to notice that the people you meet more often, obviously, are the ones that you have higher, chances of being potentially romantically involved with. Yeah. Especially if you're not, like, going out to other social gatherings. If your only social gathering would be probably at work or you're at the gym or somewhere like that, you have a higher chance to meet someone that is a potential partner. It just really depends on the rules of the job, and also depend on where you are on the hierarchy of departments, and if it's meant to be. If it works out great and you enjoy the person, then it is definitely worth the risk, but you definitely have to be extra careful. I think more communication is required. Even like working with your best friend, like if you do like a business with them, it's like kind of a tough thing because it could destroy friendships as well.
Yeah, that reminds me of this I Love Lucy episode where Fred and Ethel and Lucy and Ricky try to open a restaurant together, and their friendship like falls apart. The episode I think is called "Don't Do Business with Friends." So yeah, that's something that's probably to keep in mind. It's obviously a really funny episode, and it's great and wholesome. But I think it's also onto something like what you're saying, like. Yeah. Disagreements can destroy relationships, especially when those disagreements involve like your life's work and your livelihood and where you get your security from. That can be really, really tricky territory.
Yeah. No. Theories of attraction, I said in the past, proximity is something that I think is kind of innate. You don't notice, but it's just where you are and how many people you meet. And obviously, like, you have to find ways to meet new people if you're, like, not meeting enough people in your life. Try to go out or do different hobbies if you definitely want to be more well-rounded. Yeah, and then, just don't be afraid. If you're... I would say society expectation obviously want men to be the instigator of the relationship because they obviously see men to be more hyper-confident or be more, I guess... aggressive in nature, but I would say like there are some women out there, even like if they identify themselves as women or any other person, like if they have that confidence or they really show like that they really motivated to ask someone out, I recommend them to just do it because I wouldn't just sit and wait because like the problem is you hope that they would notice you, which for some people like you can't play probability. You can't just lead it to chance, or you can't, you have to take the step. If you want change or you want things to do your way, you just have to take that initiative. And it's not bad, if you make the initiative, they're not going to see you as any different. They probably be very excited or even grateful that you asked them out. Like, it's just because, like, so it shows like you're, you like them in a way where it complements them, and if it doesn't go well, I mean, it doesn't matter because there's so many people out there, and you can be compatible with a lot of them. Because I feel like, you never know who you can be compatible with. That's why like a lot of people I think go on multiple dates, or they obviously want to find out, who they are better with, and it is a trial and error. Obviously, you might not get it right. In my past, I had to say, it's a little bit hard to say, but I did have a couple more dates. I did have to go through a certain amount of people to, go on one of those dates and just see how it goes. If it goes south, I mean, it's whatever. But I found my partner now, and she's very nice, and I'm glad I met her because I was like, man, I met some people who are very cold, and surprisingly they're not like truly honest with their intention of being serious. A lot of times nowadays, like it's not just men, like women as well can also choose not to be serious with men, like in dating. And people get ghosted either way, like guys and girls. It's just how it is, like you learn through trial and error. And I think the more you go out there and you meet people, you become more aware, like, of the signs. And I think it just makes you as a better person, a better partner.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Like, there's nothing wrong with dating around. There's nothing wrong with experimenting, getting to know yourself even through those, like, different experiences.
Yeah, like what you're saying is, it's always, you find out who you are when you're starting to date more people. You start to feel like you're starting to know the type of people you're looking for. Because I feel like for some people, they're like, well, I could pretty much go get along with anyone, or you just don't know like what type of personality would fit for you. If you're somebody who needs somebody to be the one that talks, the more extrovert side, or you need somebody to be a little bit more the calming side because you have more energy. Yeah, you start to figure out who you are. The more different people you see, and you start to see that pattern.
Yeah, and if there's someone you're interested in and you want to, take that leap, like, I would encourage you just fucking do it. Because, I mean, it could go bad. It totally could, and that could suck. But the thing is like, if you don't shoot your shot, you'll never know. And then you'll just be stuck in this, like, miserable limbo for a really long time. And I think it's really important, again, take care of yourself. You can't stay in that state forever because it's really going to start wearing on you. And eventually it's going to interfere with the friendship or whatever sort of relationship you have with that person already. So, again, just communicate that. Clear the air, be open, be honest, all those things.
Yeah, and don't feel defeated just because, like, you're getting in that age, or if you're, like, getting closer to a point where you feel like there's not many options. And obviously, like, I feel like people can find love at any age point past once you become an adult. At that point, you can find people who decide to get married in their 30s or 40s, and that's fine, because like for some people it just depends on what's going on with their lives. For some people it takes harder time for them to like connect with people or finding that right person, just because you're doing trial and error. You're trying to find someone who can fit in your life in a way where it doesn't, they are also comfortable with being with you.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a lot to change, because like for me, I didn't start dating people until I was 19, and that was like, obviously for some people they dated since like middle school, and they've been on, they start to have relationships early. But for some people it takes longer in time, just because it depends on your level of comfort, how well you are with, wanting to be intimate with people, because that definitely is, hard to do. But yeah, you're never too late in age, because like, even if you're older, you're becoming a little bit wiser. You're starting to know who you want.
Yeah.
And I know like for some older people, they're very picky. They get to the point where they have to have people in a certain type or a certain way. But I still think you have to be at some level open to being adventurous with people, because you never know. You might find somebody, because like for some people I met, their parents are like 10 years apart, or but the thing is, like, they have completely different likes and interests because of a generation gap. But at the same time, like, they get along really well. But it's never impossible. Like, especially if you're surrounding yourself with good friends, you won't feel truly alone. And then if you do find that romantic partner of your life, I mean, it's never too late to start one. Cause I think that's the one thing I think people are worried about, because I know for some people, like, they're trying to get married as soon as possible these days. People are getting married, like, during college. I met a girl who got married with a guy after 1 year of dating, and then she got divorced because it was pretty quick, but at the same time, like, I don't know what her goal was, if she was just wanting to be that person to have a family right away so she can have kids at a younger age. But for some people, like, they have priorities, or I don't know if like they truly are soul searching for someone who is going to be their companion for life. I just think like some people rush things too quick, and for some people like they might take too long if depending on how they are communicating. If they're not communicating well enough, then for some people like taking that long could cause them to become very uncertain and get paranoid or insecure themselves. But I think for some people it's definitely, if you're in a younger age, take more time to find out yourself. For some people, like even in college, I don't even know myself half the time.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I think one thing that I think is important to talk about while we're on this is like, I wonder if people who feel like they want to jump into a marriage and have kids like right away, at like 19 and 20, I wonder if it's less what they want and more of like they feel a social pressure and obligation almost to do those things. So if you're someone who's in that position, I would recommend my non-expert unsolicited advice to you is just take a step back and think like, is this what I want, or is this what I think the world wants of me? Yeah, I mean, I just kind of see it as a random social contract that some people want to do it, some people don't. I say, who gives a fuck? Like,
It's nicely put. But yeah, it's whatever, because nowadays marriage is something just to profess to society of your relationship. It is something where
tax breaks.
Yeah, it's there's a political where in society there's always some benefits for people who are married.
Yeah.
Also in like their culture, it is something that is considered, especially in the religious sense, that it's an obligation. But marriage is also something I feel like can help people feel more grounded and secure of their relationship. But in honesty, if you're already comfortable with somebody and you've been with them for a long time, you won't feel too different. I feel like, you'll have a fun party, you'll have a great time, but I think in the end, pretty much is how, when you live with somebody and you share a relationship already with them, marriage is just, I guess, a plus.
Yeah, I feel like if someone's going into marriage thinking like, oh, this is the next level of our relationship, it's gonna like get so awesome, it's like, whoa. If you're not already like in that place where you think the relationship is awesome, maybe you should take a second and think about marrying this person. Nothing's really changing. You're just signing a piece of legal document. Like, that's it. So like, marriage, no, it's not going to solve your relationship problems. It's just going to be expensive. That's about it.
Yeah, marriage costs, but at the same time, it is fun. You can make it as fun as you want. It is a great time with friends and family. Yeah. But at the same time, like, is it truly an important thing in your life to achieve this goal? I mean, if you're having kids, I mean, probably will help if you're married, but if you're happy and content with living with each other and coexisting, I think that's great too, because for some people it's a benefit to get married. Some people, they don't see any benefit, or they see it as just a waste of money nowadays because it costs a lot. And obviously when they come to legal terms, like, it can be even costlier if you decide that it's not going to work. But if you're not in a good place right now in the relationship, obviously marriage is not going to fix it. I feel like it's just one type of celebration. It's like a ritual for some people, and I think if you're really in a happy place right now with your significant other, I think that's enough for some people just to be happy with. I met some people who have kids and waited to get married for after 20 years of having kids and having a family, because my old coworker, she's like, well, we don't have the finances to get married, so like we'd rather just focus on having kids and being together. And marriage was just an extra thing. It was just like, why not? Yeah. For some people, I think I heard celebrities too, like they get married way later in life. They've been with somebody for a decade or so. So it's like, I know, but that's something that I guess still is an opinion to this day, just because of society's norm of marriage. But
yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge the like social pressure, I think, that is on that, like, get married, have kids, all these, especially like we're in the US, and in the US that is historically a very like religious sort of patriarchal like infrastructure at its core. It's like it's very expected of you to do those sorts of things. And so in my non-expert opinion, like if you're feeling that sort of pressure, maybe like take a step back and think, is this what I want? Is this my need? Or is this a social expectation that is being like pressed upon me? And am I responding to that even like subconsciously in a way? So yeah, I just want to like, I guess, like take a second and recognize this, you know, it's not an obligation for you. It's a social like event. It's a thing. It can be fun. It can be great. It can be beautiful even, but it's not necessary. And so if it's not something you really want, and if you're not really ready for it, like, fuck it. Like, who cares? You know? Or and if you don't think you'll ever want it. Same with kids. Like, I personally don't ever want children, and like, that's I'm disappointing my parents, but you know what? Fuck those fuckers too. And it's like, whatever. It's your life at the end of the day, and you're the one who has to live with your decisions. Others do too, but decisions like partners and kids, like that is literally reorienting your life on a lot of levels.
Yeah, I think when it comes to relationships, definitely the things to look out for is just to be more mindful of how to communicate with your partner. Also, like, just being honest, straight up tell them, like, after knowing them for so much, don't be afraid to tell, even if they're just friends, let them know, like, you know, that you find them attractive. You wonder, you know, if it's going to go anywhere, if they want to go make it go anywhere. If not, that's fine. I mean, you probably will go on being friends, that's be fine, but some people it's fine not to. Yeah. You definitely need to take risks and be adventurous. Go out there, start meeting new people, you know, be more open-minded. Don't assume already what they are, because you'll be surprised at the people you'll meet, and they might even change your life for the better just because of all the things that they know and things that they like. Could definitely you find them also enjoyable. I guess also just be very self-aware of where you are in life, because if you're not in a good place right now, try to take care of yourself to the point where the person can, you know, be there for you as well. It's a difficult road. It's definitely a tricky thing because there's no rules or there's no direct answers of how to find the love of your life or just do a trial and error. And I know for some people they think it's like a waste of their time. They don't want to waste their precious time, but I think it's important to focus on doing, you know, just getting to know people, because you make friends along the way. You know, honestly, you make lifelong friends, and it helps you become a better person, a more, I guess, well-rounded person. But yeah, I'm glad that you came here with me today, Elise.
Thanks, CK.
It's definitely a fun time to talk about deep things, and especially if it's the philosophy side or the psychological side. But absolutely. We'll definitely have more fun conversations about philosophy next time, probably.
Hell yeah. You got any Valentine's Day plans, CK?
Not in the moment. Definitely is something I had to like start thinking now, of course.
Same.
Just because February's coming, and definitely got to plan on trying to, you know, make it a more special day. But at the same time, it's not the only day to
celebrate your partner every day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Every day. And yourself.
Exactly.
Celebrate yourself too.
It's true. So like Valentine's Day is just a awareness day, I would say, for the people you're in love with in your life. It's always nice once in a while to tell them, even though if they know. Yeah. But just remind them, and then they'll feel very happy. It could always brighten their day. Valentine's Day it's just great. You know, I know it's more capitalistic holiday for nowadays, but at the same time, I would just say it helps you think about your relationship and showing how grateful you have someone in your life. Yeah.
Or someone's. I mean, you know, some people are poly, that's totally chill too.
No, more the merrier.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But as always, you know, like if you do like this video, if you like this type of topic, let me know in the comments below. You know, like and subscribe, of course. And
ring the bell.
Yeah, hit that notification bell. And definitely let us know what you want us to talk about next, especially if it has to do with philosophy or relationships. It is difficult, and I know it might not be like textbook for some people, but I think based on our experiences and our relationships that we had, it's good to hear it from somebody who who's been there, who's done that, and obviously somebody who never thought they would find someone, but then, they kept trying. It's something like that you'll see in your own experience in time. But I'm glad, like, I didn't want to do this alone because I feel like my experience alone wouldn't just be justifiable enough to fully give all the advice. I feel like it's definitely nice to hear someone as well, like, see what their thoughts, because who knows, maybe I have different ideas or beliefs. So
happy to be here.
Yeah, so we'll definitely come back to the topic sometime. We'll probably have Elise come back again, and they're willing to stop by and and spend their free time here with
all these board games. This man can't keep me out of his basement.
It's true. But otherwise, thank you for watching, and we'll see you the next time.
All right, ciao everyone.